Good morning, welcome to Morning Outlook. This is Kim speaking on Tuesday the 8th of February. So just looking, before I actually get onto the markets themselves, just a question for you, and if you wouldn't mind spending a moment just replying to this. What do you want out of these morning outlooks? Because I realise they're quite long at times. I'm looking at quite a number of different things. Do you want me to split them up? So we're looking at sort of just currencies, maybe just currencies, cryptocurrencies, then looking at the indices separately and commodities separately. How would you prefer to see them? What would be the best format? So there you go. Any other ideas? So throw them on the bottom there. I just want to make them more appropriate for people watching. If you're watching a bit later in the day, what would help you? There you go. Just a question for you. Bit of sort of feedback would be appreciated. Anyway, let's look at the markets. First things first. I was looking at Treasury notes, the yields this morning, and wow, they're pushing out the park there. They're running up to sort of 2019 levels. Last time we reached this sort of yield. Bonds basically being sold. A dollar always benefits from this movement as money runs back into cash, and we're seeing quite a move there. Anyway, what we've got coming out today, the best part of nothing. It's all very light, low impact news today. So French trade balance, Italian retail sales, etc. On its own, it's pretty non-eventful. So not looking for anything of significance there. In fact, if we filter this, it'll just show you the only thing was the Reserve Bank of New Zealand governor spoke, and that's it. And well, it makes us look forward to what else we got then. Not a great deal this week actually. Crude oil inventories tomorrow, but if you look at the timing, is quite a quiet week. It often is after non-farms. So anyway, there we are. Quiet week ahead. Let's get on, look at the currencies themselves. I'm sorry, I've been switching around a little bit here. Let's start off looking at the euro. So one thing I would say is across the board the dollar's strengthened this morning on the basis of those yields. As soon as I see the dollar strengthening, I'll have a quick flick through and look and see what's happening. It gives me a bit of a clue to what's happening in the wider context of things. And we're seeing that the dollar strengthening, and you can see the euro off this morning here. Yesterday it looked quite good. I will tell you, if it does start rallying and getting anywhere close to back to these highs, there is a bundle of buy orders I can see sitting above here. So if it ever gets back towards that area and starts tapping around the area at about 1485, I think it was. I mean, at one stage yesterday it was looking like it was going to go off and run for things, but it's normally the point of least resistance, and the orders sitting over there will see a bit of a move, but it has found resistance for now. And when I start looking at what's happening on the lower time frames, lower highs coming in. Now my preference is still, in a sense, would be on the long side, because that's where the main push has been over a week. That might be it. The dollar may be regaining its strength, in which case, well, things like this weekly pivot could be in target. And I'm just sort of looking post 8 o'clock, it might come into shape a little bit better. Looking at the daily pivots, and they're so pinched up today, I think almost ignorable. Yesterday was a horrible day in terms of no real traction. It started off okay into midday and then just went sideward. And it's only this morning that it's broken out of that range. And once again, sell stops down here, so it's taken out those sell stops. Now this could all reverse, and as I said, I'm still I haven't taken an eye off of where the main momentum was sitting across the highs there, and just sort of pop a trend line on there, a break back towards that and through that would see me sort of targeting, as I say, the sort of 115-ish area. There's orders right the way through to 115, so there we go. Or I say there's orders, there's plenty of orders, but it's predominantly it's stacked towards the buy side. Okay, on balance. Okay, the pound. So the pound, well, yesterday consolidated off at the moment. horrible old day. It's the beginning of the week. Monday seemed to be going a little bit iffy. Did manage to get some out of the pound. I was quite chuffed with when you go back and you think, oh, it's quite nice. But then all you're doing is looking at something and getting a bit sort of ahead of yourself. You shouldn't let your ego get in the way of your trading. So I'll retract that thought. Anyway, looking at where it is at the moment, just chopping along here really. Again, bigger trend wise, it had been pushing up, but it's lost its sparkle at the moment, and this consolidation around the sort of lower area may suggest that it has got further downside. I'm sort of starting to look at the lows here, and maybe post 8 o'clock if they're triggered, I'll be on the bearish side. What would get me back in the bullish side? Well, you need to start seeing these highs taken out. If you start seeing it moving above the 35-40-ish area, then I could be looking towards it. But yesterday's highs there at 35-51, not much of a target if it just runs back into that range. And there's not a lot of news to drive anything here. Looking at the dollar yen, well, the dollar yen is a difficult one to assess really these days, because it risk on, risk off, it's sort of going, and then it's got its own movement, but it is selling against, the dollar strengthening against it, and you can see the yen weakening as the dollar pushes up further, back up to sort of areas I expected from last week. It could be, sorry, just coming back to the dailies, I'm just sort of looking at last week's highs there. I mean, it's been such a sluggish old beast. Maybe it's got more upside, maybe a little bit late in terms of the breakouts happened here, but could yet have some upside throwing through there, but not the favourite to be trading today. Aussie dollar has gone all consolidated on me, on us. It's tightened up. I was looking yesterday to see if it sort of ran through the lows here and continued this what was like a bear flag at one stage, and it just sort of turned in a bit more bullish. It's got the scope for further upside, and I'm sort of looking at it where it's sitting at the moment, thinking, well, okay, it's ticked off its weekly pivot there. Is it going to go up to the weekly R1, those prior highs? And that's what I'm sort of looking at the moment. Higher lows, higher highs through on the 60-minute time frame. It's bounced back to its daily pivot here today as well. Maybe it can turn around a little bit, end up a bit more bullish. It's not got long to go here. There's a possibility we'll have a look and see where it runs, but prior highs could be a target on there. Canadian dollar, again, chop. It's a difficult one to read at the moment. Largely, it's spent last week, the whole of the last week, well, most of the last week in chop. Then we got the rally at the end there. Again, it's already building up for further chop. We've seen yet another test of those lows at 26.57 sort of area. Another challenge to those. Well, the more it does it, the more likely it is to break through it and maybe get a bit of oomph behind it. So I will be watching that quite carefully as it starts approaching next time. And if it starts moving through, I might just join the party. Really, it's got some potential, but certainly not happening at the moment. Okay, commodities, gold. Well, gold caught the bid yesterday and shoved up some more. It's just sort of, but then stalled a little bit. Once again, it's just giving some back at the moment. In the last 4 hours, it's given back the last sort of remnants of yesterday. It's pulling back, but it's got that sort of drift. As I said yesterday, when we saw these moves in the previous week there, where they sort of shot down, they moved up in the very next hour. So there was certainly buyers sitting out there, and we could still see some buyers in there. The sentiment on the bigger sentiment on gold isn't particularly bullish, but that's the way it runs sometimes. It's just you've got to just follow where the market is. Yeah, gold was actually quite a shift through back to the sort of bearish tones, but on the big money. But technically at the moment, well, has the one thing to watch out for, has put a lower high in. Perhaps it will roll a bit more, but there certainly has been buyers in that market. Right, oil. All continue to push up, but yesterday just stalled there, and this morning it's off a little bit. There's talks of Iran deals and things like this, which could spoil the OPEC Plus situation, but we'll see. For now, though, lower highs in this little short 4-hourly time frame. Big question, I guess. The obvious thing to be looking at in the in this flag pattern is the flag pattern that sort of sits here, and is it going to give it a push above this sort of level to get a bit more bullish again. Looking at lower time frames, lower highs, lower lows coming through on this, just short of the weekly pivot. See what it does. I mean, the trigger point there above the 50, etc., around about 91.83, it becomes a bit more interesting on the buy side. Of course, you've got resistance to the prior highs, but also don't forget there'll be stops above those. So if it breaks, so there's a possibility there for something switches round. Not much out today though, so okay. Let's look at the get onto the other markets. I'm going to look at crypto first because, as suggested yesterday, we're starting to get into a bit more of a bullish zone. Now, interesting, Bitcoin here. I just put some trend lines, support resistance lines here, and well, there was a resistance line it chewed through yesterday, or it certainly poked through today, back into those prior lows. As I said, really the move started, it's put a higher low in there, and it looks like there's been a bit of a move. Now, whether this is sort of quite a pivotal area, because it starts breaking beyond here, well, then the bulls come back into the markets, and you're really looking up to about 52,000 in that sort of range. For the next point of key resistance. So looking a bit more bullish. Ethereum's done particularly well as well. It's same picture, higher lows. It did it on the break of the channel there, and off it's gone. So these are a bit gone at the moment. So if you're looking to get in, it's often retracements. It's which we certainly could have. Some big old moves here. Yesterday Ripple really caught the bid there, but the other markets following suit largely. If you're just flicking through the more common and larger coins here, there's a similar movement all the way through. Okay, so crypto moving up, retracements, maybe intraday retracements if you're buying in that way. May be interesting. Looking at the indices then, let's have a look at CSI overnight. Once again, put a new low in. As I said, I remain bearish on this market. It just looks weak. And when you look at it, I'm looking at it on a daily basis, and it's really, I'm looking at this in a bigger sort of situation. There we go. And you look at these sort of chunks and steps that it's taken. Now, I just wonder how much more this is going to come. It's at the moment it's still looking particularly weak. The Nikkei. Well, Nikkei on the weekly basis, it looked okay last week, positive week in the end, but it's chopping around where it is at the moment. It's not far from the lows. I do wonder it will just carry on rolling. The FTSE is not open quite yet. The DAX, I've got the continued contract on there, continuous contract. Yeah, it's poking its head up a little bit at the moment. So we're seeing a little bit movement on the DAX, the CAC, also running through continuous contract on the S&Ps. Slight delay there, but that's actually selling off again. It still looks to me like these S&Ps they just can't get the momentum to the upside again. It's sort of stalled. It was doing pretty well, stalled. Same across here, which suggests, well, it's maybe putting a lower high in, and we're seeing it with the 30 as well. There we go. The Dow Jones just looks like it could be further downside, and now of course further downside for me could also be this is just a retracement before it pushes up, but with higher interest rates it generally pushes the bigger picture to the downside. Okay, and finally the Nifty 50, almost finally, I haven't looked at the 8 o'clock's hit, so I'll be able to have a look at the FTSE in just a moment. Nifty 50 also pushing further south. As I said, it looks like it's in a bit of a bearish pattern at the moment, so all following suit here really. FTSE, well, the FTSE's open positive. I still can't put it beyond the FTSE to break through these prior highs here, taking out the short stops that will no doubt be sitting there at the moment. Okay, that's pretty much it for me today. As I say, we would appreciate your feedback. Have a good day. Bye for now.